Hey everyone, Anna Hammond's here with Unite Ellis podcast. This month we're talking about domestic violence awareness. I've got the fabulous Jennifer Salzman from the Heights with us, and we're going to talk all the things and how you can get involved. So let's do this. All right, Jennifer, thanks so much for being here. Why don't you start off by telling us like your high level intro, who you are, who you're with, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am Jennifer Salzman. I'm the executive director of the Heights, Ellis County Family Resources, and we serve families in Ellis County who are going through domestic abuse.
Okay, and I know you started before your current physical space, so kind of give me the timeline of like how long you've been there, where you started, and all the timeline that went with that.
Yeah, so we actually started during the pandemic, which was real special.
Good timing, yes.
But there's a huge need for this, and I got connected to an organization in Tarrant County called One Safe Place, and they're a part of a national alliance, the Alliance for Hope International, and it really is the best practice, kind of that model of how do you serve families dealing with domestic abuse in the best way possible. And so really I dove into that and started learning all about it, which was great timing being during the pandemic.
Sure.
And eventually the executive director there challenged me that you just don't know what you don't know until you start serving victims in your own community.
Okay.
So that's really what kind of launched me onto we've got to start doing this, and you have to start somewhere. So we started virtually, which was challenging in several ways, but that's where we all were, right? It wasn't just us as an organization, it was
the norm
society. And so it afforded us a really interesting advantage in a sense because it gave us the ability to start small and learn things.
Test it out.
Yeah, it wasn't something we just had to like dive so hard in so fast that we might get ahead of ourselves. So about probably just a little over a year, maybe 2 years into kind of starting to serve the needs, doing that virtually, we really felt called to find a home somewhere, and we ended up landing in a temporary office space in Waxahachie. We were there for a year, and that was really good. It gave us a place where people could actually come meet with us face to face. We were coming out of the pandemic. That was really important. That human connection was really resurfacing, and especially when you deal with that with domestic violence, there was so much that during the pandemic escalated things. This whole issue is what happens behind closed doors in a home. And during the pandemic, that was at its highest level. And so I was really grateful that the timing of that worked out for us to be able to get in a temporary office space, and as people were coming back into relationship and connection with one another, we were a service you could then come face to face and meet with us. And so we stayed there for about a year until we had this opportunity to move on the campus we're at now today.
So I'm going to dig into the current campus a little bit more, but let's go back to the virtual part. What did that look like? People were finding you, and then what kind of services were you even able to provide virtually?
Yeah, at that point we were doing intakes. So our intakes include danger assessments from Johns Hopkins University that helps us understand their risk of becoming a domestic violence homicide. Super important because like literal talking about people's lives and the risk that they're in. And so there was a lot of education that happens in those, almost all of them were phone calls at that point, being virtual. And then we started adding, a case manager on. So then that helped navigate. So then you're dealing with safety planning. And so, what does that look like? Everyone's individual. And so having a case manager to be able to navigate that conversation and ask those details. Do you have kids? Where are you living? What's the history of this relationship? So that's really where the origin started before we were able to then expand and bring on counseling, spiritual support, those services then came a little later.
Okay. And so if at that time someone was ready to get out of the situation, it would be sending them out of the county or to other places in DFW.
So before the Heights, the shelter that was really serving Ellis County is down in Waco, the Family Abuse Center. They've been a great partner from the beginning. They committed to walking alongside us until we were ready to fully take over, and that was really important. And there's other really incredible organizations that are in the DFW Metroplex, and so we have forged really wonderful partnerships with them. There's shelters in Dallas, shelters in Tarrant County, and so we've worked with them long before we had all of the services we were ready to launch.
Yeah, and I assume there's a certain kind of phasing one might go through of like, oh, do I need to get help? To all the way to like, it's time to move out. Like, how do y'all handle that? And I'm sure that's kind of involved in like intake and all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you see as far as that?
It's interesting because the national average is it takes 7 times trying to leave your abusive situation before you really have all of the tools, resource, everything you need to be able to do it. So it's interesting because we don't actually know when we are engaging with a victim whether this is their first time or this is their 10th time. And so it's really important that we are leaving our doors completely open. That they know no matter what, if they, have a challenge and a roadblock or a barrier to figuring out how to leave, that in 3 months, if they are really ready, we're still there. We're still available. There's no judgment to that. We're like open arms going to embrace them and walk alongside. So there is some navigation there. And something that a lot of people don't think about is when the victim leaves, that period of when they leave is the most lethal. And that's really what kind of drove my family to get involved in this issue, is because of its impact on us personally.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I was going to ask, like, why? Like, what brought you to even this entire topic?
Yeah, so that whole concept of it being the most lethal when you leave was very true in my own family. So my mom came out of domestic abuse as a child. That was in Oklahoma back in the kind of late 50s, early 60s. There weren't the amount of social services that we have that, we see today. So they really just didn't have everything they needed to process through that. And unfortunately, when my mom was 8, my grandmother decided to leave. And traditionally, we would say that going to family is safe, but it's not always safe. If your abuser, the perpetrator, knows exactly where you are, where you would go, and if you're in that high lethality risk, it can be really dangerous, which is why safety planning is super important. And so in my own family, that is what was really true. So at 8 years old, my mom and her mom, my grandmother, left with her younger brother, and they went to my great-grandmother's, and she happened to live across the street from my mom's Aunt Stella, and that's where they were seeking safety, and he ended up finding them. And in an altercation, he ended up killing her grandmother in front of them.
Oh my goodness.
When they left. And so
your great-grandmother.
Yes. So,
wow.
Huge impact in my own family of what domestic violence really looks like. And so obviously I came way later in the picture, but I became the child of a child victim. And so my entire life and my siblings' entire life, we grew up with a mom that went through this childhood abuse, went through this major trauma. And, part of my mom's coping was to talk about it. And so what I now know is people don't talk about it much, but in my family, we talked about it a lot. And so it really created a desire in our family to help other families that have been through these issues because we've been so impacted by it.
Wow.
And then my mom and dad met really young. They were like 14, 15 years old. And at that age, you don't spill your life trauma. And so my dad ended up marrying someone who has this childhood trauma. And love his passion. He embraced her story, her trauma, and really has walked the road with her to process that. And so
It's really neat.
over the years, we've, as a family, gotten incredibly involved with women's shelters, specifically kind of around DFW, out of just a response to help
cool.
families who are going through these issues.
That's really neat. What did that look like in your home growing up? Like, do you see now that there were certain things that were different because of your mom? I mean, obviously the conversations were different, but did that look different in any other way?
Yeah, I mean, I think my parents' relationship was so much more healthy in a sense because there was this like duality of how unhealthy domestic violence
Right.
is and the push against like what happens in our home.
Sure.
Behind our closed doors, we're going to protect that.
Yeah.
And we're going to not only protect that, we're going to honor that not everybody has that. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something that impacted how
Yeah.
we grew up. Unfortunately, my older sister found herself in a not great relationship and situation. And so then kind of my family is like, man, when you hear things like generational issues, you just don't really think about it to the level of realizing there's some real hard truth to that. And as hard as we tried to create this little bubble culture in my family, unfortunately, it happened again in another generation. And so that's been really hard. It's been really challenging to our family to have to walk that road again in another generation, another season. Different issues, different trauma. But it really has been the catalyst to our family doing even more.
Yeah.
I often share with people part of my sister's journey. There was a additional trauma. We lost my 15-year-old nephew in the middle of their kind of divorce and getting out of that domestic situation. And that had nothing to do specific with the domestic abuse. But what it did was it really clarified for my family and for me personally. This is where the Lord called me to this work. Yeah. I didn't have the language at that time that I have now. But the night at the hospital when we lost John, for lack of better terms, I became a case manager. My husband's law enforcement, he was on shift work. I left him home that night. My kids were little. They had school the next day. So I just made a decision to go to the hospital just myself. And the whole rest of my family was there. All of my sister's ex and his whole family were there because they lost a child as well. Yeah. And it was messy. It was a really dark, ugly place to be. And I looked around and I'm like, how do families do this?
Yeah.
In walks PD, they need to do an investigation. I mean, there's just layers of trauma that happen. And so really when we as a family got past losing John, got past the chapter of my sister's, situation, kind of helped essentially close that door as best you can. The reality is those doors don't close, right? There's lifelong healing from those things. Right. You still deal with custody and just there's complexity to it. But it was very eye-opening for our family to realize that domestic violence, domestic abuse looks just like us. And it lit a fire in us to do something more and think about how do we get more involved. And we had done work getting involved with the shelters in Dallas and Tarrant County. And my parents moved out here to Ellis County right after I graduated high school. And then shortly after we started having kiddos, we moved out here. And so that timing of when we were just coming out of that situation seemed like perfect timing that the Lord was really calling our family to do something impactful here in Ellis County.
I mean, there's a couple of different themes that I'm hearing you talk about. One is communication in your family, like the healthy environment that y'all have created, unfortunately, out of your mom's trauma, but all that communication, it sounds it sounds like a pivotal thing.
Sure.
And then you're going on 4 generations of this, and the generational impact that started negative, but now changing in such positive ways, I think is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, using those pains and turning them into
Yeah.
passion and turning them into purpose.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do with kind of starting and founding the
Yes.
Heights. And my dad's such an incredible individual, great business leader, and really had a vision for how do we as a family and using our family business be the small engine that can start and ignite
Yes.
this larger purpose and vision. And, you know, his leadership on this really set us up well. Something of this magnitude, he felt very passionate and he was correct about getting the right people involved.
Yeah.
And so from the very beginning, he had the foresight to see we needed this to be a county-wide, needed something that our literal county leadership was going to support and back. And so before inception, we created this idea based on learning about a national organization. So it's not the Tidwell family or Jennifer Salzman's idea.
Sure.
This is best practice. We have a model.
Yeah.
We're following a guide, which is really great. And then we were able to present that across the county and ask those key leaders at that time, the mayors, the police chiefs, the commissioners, the pastors, the business owners. We kind of gathered a pool of people that were pretty diverse across the county and just asked them, like, do you think that this is an issue in our county like we think it is? And are you willing to do something about it? And I loved it because we got pretty unanimous support that this is an issue and we should do something about this in Ellis County. And my dad essentially passed the paper and said, well, great. Your yes is amazing, but it's shallow unless you're involved. And so we asked that group of leaders to get involved. And today there's a more than handful of those same leaders still on our board.
I love it.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So let's get into the current facility in the new building, because I've been watching that obviously over the years, and it's so cool to see. And I do know from the beginning you had high-level leaders. You've had high-level leaders involved, which was really really cool to see. And I do feel like it was involved in just the momentum y'all have had. So it's really neat to watch. So let's talk about your current facility and property and how that went and kind of where you're at today and where you're about to go.
Yeah, so we've been in our existing campus now for 2 years. We actually had a whole other original plan. We had some holdups on that. And it's just been really amazing to now look back and see the Lord's plan that has gone before us and all the details of that just unfolding, which has been really beautiful. And so this particular property was formerly owned by Methodist. And when they built the new hospital in Midlothian, they had this campus. And really this significant partnership with Methodist to get us into this campus reasonably has been game changer. It's 11 and a half acres. The infrastructure, there were 3 existing buildings, parking lots, lights, just that infrastructure. If we had gone with our original plan, we would probably still be in construction today, which blows my mind to think about what has happened over the last 2 years being in this campus. The other thing that I like to recognize is how amazing the Lord's plan on this, because it gave us an ability to scale. So the original idea was we're going to build this big family justice center. And when I look back now, I'm like, man, we would have gone from like a small little operating budget to pretty much overnight opening. Boom, we'd have to like have this very robust, like bringing on staff and all of these expenses. And what this property has afforded us is the ability to phase into this.
It's really good.
One of our core values as an organization is being debt-free. And this has really given us that ability to do this.
It's really neat.
And so we've moved into our first building 2 years ago. got that renovated, opened, moved all of our staff in and started expanding staff, adding more services. And then we were able to appropriately save and use our funds to then go and renovate the second building, get it done, get that going. And now we're able to develop the rest of the campus. And we're just really doing it at a sustainable pace where we're paying as we're going. We're not carrying that debt over the organization. Our funds that donors are giving, we're able to use for direct services for clients. So it's been pretty remarkable having this campus and how it happened and the growth of it.
So one thing I want to point out that I'm hearing you say, because you hear this theme in leaders that jump out and do big things, entrepreneurs, kingdom entrepreneurs, whatever category you're looking in, and I balance this personally myself because I love a good plan. I love a good spreadsheet. But then holding it loosely and being able to pivot your plans as the Lord lays them out differently, as things happen, especially in the world of construction.
Yes.
You know, like you have to be so loose. So it's like this balance of planning, but then hold and pivoting, plan and pivot, plan and pivot, you know, and when you're doing big things like this, like it never goes according to plan, you know, and I feel like that's a pretty strong skill set that one has to have in order to really go with something big like this.
Yeah, I think the word that keeps coming to mind as you're talking is surrendering.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've been told is I have a gifting of faith. And I just truly believe that this is all the Lord's plan. And what's really kind of special and unique to that for me is if all of this was left to Jennifer Salzman or the Tidwell family or even my existing staff, that's so finite, that's so limiting.
Yeah.
And I love that when I surrender this and I'm like able to pivot and our organization can pivot and even our board has that perspective, then really what we've been able to do and accomplish is miraculous because it's what the Lord is doing and moving, and we're just surrendering to that. And there's so much beauty in that. And we're seeing the fruit of that as this thing grows and unfolds. And just, it really blows my mind.
Yes.
You kind of talk about planning and I'm like, I'm that way too. I mean, I already have visions for the other rest of this campus. And I'm like, I would love this, but what he's done and what we've been able to accomplish, I'm like, wow, that's actually way better than I could have even planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or thinking, just being in a posture of surrendering that.
And I think that's something we need to encourage each other and others over, because big change takes big jumps, big courage, big faith. Just last week, I got to attend a watch party for a Kingdom Entrepreneur event. And every story was just, I mean, we're talking big stuff, things that are way out of our own self, my own abilities, my gifting, my talent, my money, my everything. If we had more and more people that surrendered and just took the leap of faith, you know, and did what they felt like they were being called to, but yet we also held each other accountable of like, if that's what you're hearing, let's do it. Like it takes really big things to create these ripples of change. And I think we need more of it, you know? So I love hearing projects like this because it's so good.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think there's a uniqueness here in Ellis County. There's a movement happening. There's a collaborative spirit. I'm so encouraged. I'm so grateful to be in Ellis County because of what is happening. And I really, truly believe that the tide rises all of the boats.
Yes.
And what's really cool is that is literally happening before our eyes in Ellis County right now. And, you know, I get to be a piece of that. But the Heights is just a piece of that. Like there are incredible organizations around the community that are also involved in this that don't really have huge connections with us, but what's happening is impacting
Yeah.
across. And so that is
really
really
neat.
amazing.
So speaking of collaboration, because I want to talk about your campus, obviously there's a collaborative element with all the partners, and then of course the Heights, mission part of it. So give an overview of kind of all the partners, not all of them, but how all that works and having the other services there.
Yeah, I love that national model. Gives us the pathway to say, by co-locating as many resources as you can, you're reducing the barriers that these victims face.
Yeah.
So, when they're going back 2, 3, 4 times, it's because it's so challenging, it's so difficult. And so then, when you talk about figuring out employment and transportation and their childcare needs
Yeah.
and getting them counseling and just all these things, pets, and
Yeah.
there's some complexity to this. And so the model is beautiful in the sense that it's bringing all of those resources to come together and address it holistically. The other aspect I love is you don't want to duplicate the amazing things that are already in your community.
Yes.
And so that's part of our model is we want to partner with these incredible organizations and businesses and churches and everybody that's doing this amazing work, and not try to duplicate. That's not being a good steward of the resources that are given to us. So I really like and appreciate that it's even, I don't know if I would have thought it through that way, but having this model guiding us that way is really unique and special.
Yeah. So how many total partners do you have on the campus?
There are a little more than, I think, 17 today that office out of the campus in some capacity.
Yeah.
That's, whether they drop in 1 day a month, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or they're there 5 days a week. It just looks different for each partner. And as we're able to expand the campus, we'll be able to expand the partners that can come alongside too. So I'm eager to do that.
Okay, so you have all the partners and everything in the current campus. Someone can come in and get multiple resources all in one place, which is really cool. So what's next? Where are you going from here?
Yeah, so we have 2 really exciting expansion of services on the horizon. One of them is emergency shelter. Right now in our community, we really don't have a place where if you are at risk of being killed, that high danger level on that Johns Hopkins University assessment, that you're going to become a domestic violence homicide, where do you go?
Right.
And so we're super excited to be opening those services for emergency shelter. And what that'll really look like is you'll be able to come to our resource center. We'll work with you. And then once we determine if that's really the need for you and your family, let's say, then we'll get you to that shelter at an undisclosed location and have all of those services available to you to wrap around and walk this road with you. The shelter is amazing. We've had incredible partnerships. Recently, HomeZone has embraced us, and they not only fully furnished, that would be almost an understatement. They stepped in a way that they sent designers over, kind of got an understanding of who we are, our culture, our feel, and then designed this space.
That's so neat.
And designed it with those victims in mind. What are they going through? They even found an artist that really speaks to that population, and even things that they don't make themselves, they purchased on behalf for this shelter.
That's so cool.
It is amazing. So that's one example of the amazing partnerships, amazing people across this county that we're working with, excuse me, that are leaning into this issue in such an impactful way. So we're really excited that that's on the horizon. The other one that we're incredibly excited on the horizon this next year is being able to open services for victims of sexual assault. So our partnership with law enforcement and our partnership with the district attorney's office has forged a lot of things across the domestic violence threshold, because we're a part of kind of public safety, working with this issue not only impacts these victims, but it's very, very risky and potentially lethal for our law enforcement to keep going back to these homes over and over again and issuing those warrants and things. Those are high risk But part of that partnership is really forging what other victimizations intersect with this. And sexual assault is one of those. Right now in our county, if you're sexually assaulted, you don't have a place within county to go and get the exam. And so now moving that to the Heights campus will be amazing.
That's so neat.
I sit on the sexual assault response team, and now that we've hired a nurse who has her sexual assault certification, and she's already in that space. So even though we're not open yet, she's serving in Dallas and Collin County. Again, so grateful for getting just that wealth of experience.
Yeah.
Again, the kind of best practice across
Right.
the Metroplex. So
Yeah.
it's not even Ellis County trying to figure it out. It's what is being done
Yes.
in other areas.
Yeah.
So we're bringing those best practices to Ellis
That's
County.
so good.
So we're really excited
That's
to
really
open
awesome.
that.
Okay, so if someone is hearing all of this and they're like, that might be me, or I don't, I don't feel like I'm in a spot to get help, but I don't know what to do or whatever. Talk to that person. Like, what do they do? What do you encourage if they're feeling like maybe they need some of this help?
Sure. I think reaching out to us is the very first step. And you can access this a couple different ways. So whatever's the safest, most comfortable way for you, that's what we would encourage. So we do have a website. You can go to theheightselliscounty.org, and there's a very simple little get help button you can push. That's a very short, high-level form. We just ask like one question and then ask you to give us a little bit of your scenario and let us know if it's safe to communicate with you in those ways. And then we'll get one of our staff to reach out to you.
Yeah.
We also are open from 9 to 4:30, Monday through Fridays, and we take walk-ins. And so that gives you the ability to drive over and have a conversation with somebody. And you may not know what you're dealing with. That's okay. We want you to be able to do that. And we also have a hotline that we do answer 24/7. That number's listed at the bottom of our website. So you can just scroll down to the bottom and get the hotline number. And so there's a lot of ways that you could come and access, and at least just, even for peace of mind, just talk to somebody about what you're dealing with.
Okay, so are examples that you can share? I know confidentiality is a really big one. I've watched y'all personally like really guard, and that obviously is very important because you want people to feel comfortable in making that step. But can you share, without all the information, a story of success that would encourage someone like, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, we had a client come to us from Waxahachie, and she found herself in a really scary, unfortunate situation, actually held at gunpoint, and really leaned on the community in that exact moment, like fleeing. And I was really proud. Actually, HEB stepped into that situation and really pulled her back and kept her safe and got law enforcement involved. And our Waxahachie Police Department jumped right in, and they're incredible.
Yeah.
And because of our partnership with them, we immediately got the call and immediately got the opportunity to be involved. And so really just speaks to that collaborative effort and being a part of that public safety. And so we were able to work right alongside both the law enforcement and the district attorney's office as this thing unfolded, and keeping her safe. Even on the front side, while they were going and looking for the perpetrator and trying to make an arrest, we were able to get involved with her and help keep her safe during that time frame. And then, even once he was arrested, he posted bail. And so then that became an opportunity for us to get back involved and really forge that safety net for her. And then really what was amazing is to see this run full circle. And within about a year, we were able to go through the entire court process, the judicial process with her. And that was incredible to see the great work that our district attorney's office is doing to help hold offenders accountable.
Yeah.
And for us to get involved and walk alongside her. And our partners, we had our transportation partner actually step in huge, and she was terrified to drive to court. And he not only drove her, stayed and went all 3 days with her the entire time. Stayed with
the
her.
driver?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Because of these amazing partnerships. And
That's so
ultimately
cool.
that one ended up in 2 convictions. And so now kind of looking full circle on one of our clients that we've been able to really walk this huge road with.
Yeah.
And she is now being on the other side of that. She's using her voice to be a part of a committee that we have that's called Voices, that's made up of survivors from our community. And so it's been incredible to see that full circle.
Yeah. And I just that reminded me about the physical space. You have the mock courtroom, the hair salon, the clothing, like people have to come visit just because the prep, I know behind the scenes, the prep work that y'all did to get her ready to go to court. I mean, cause that's a whole thing in and of itself, but so at Unite, obviously we love cross-sector collaboration, and you have already hit pretty much every area. We've got government involved, the police, the court system. You've got businesses, HEB, Home Zone, like actively engaged. Obviously you have nonprofit partners here. I know that if you have a victim come in, they have a kid, they need help, that need goes into Care Portal, then our churches step in, they're providing those things. And probably at some point education, if someone like a school counselor or something identifies something that's then referring. I mean, it's all, the collaboration is like unbelievable, and it just makes me so very happy. So if someone's listening and they're like, I really want to get involved as an individual, as a business, as whatever sector they're in, what do they do?
Yeah, so similar process. You would go to our website, click that Get Help button, fill out just that basic, hey, here's who I am, here's who I'm with, my organization, how I want to get involved. You can scroll to the bottom of the website. We have our business phone. You can call in. You can come by, 9 to 4:30 any day, Monday through Friday. We would love to engage with all of those individuals and really, what is your piece? We're not all called to do all of it.
Yes.
We're gifted uniquely, and that's where you fit. And so really understanding, is that, volunteering, and does that look like in the boutique or in the kids area or going to court? Is it driving? Is it like whatever it looks like that you're gifted and you have capacity, whether it's your business and they're wanting to sponsor something or help, just gives us an opportunity to have involvement in so many ways.
Someone coming out of a situation and having to get on their feet and all the steps and the components that go into that is a lot. And so if someone actually thought about like, how could I get plugged in? Like there's so many areas, like we mentioned, you have someone giving haircuts, you have someone donating the business suit that they might have to go get ready, and maybe they go over to Christian Women's Job Corps to get training and lessons on how to go to a job interview, because maybe this is the first time they have to get a full-time job. You have someone, doing the furniture for the shelter. I mean, the amount of ways that a person can get involved is really great. And it reminds me that we've had Erica on to talk about the housing portion, which is that's a whole nother thing. But the long-term of the hive houses, getting people set up long-term after the shelter, and getting them on their feet for sustainability long-term. It's just, y'all are doing an amazing job. Okay, so we really encourage everyone to think about what your piece of this entire process is, because I'm sure there's a way that everybody can get involved. So go to heightselliscounty.org. You can go to uniteellis.org. Just find a way to get involved, get plugged in, and let's help everyone out. All right, y'all have a great month. We'll talk to you next time.